A 2,100-ton destroyer turned and charged the largest battleship ever built. Nobody ordered it, and it wasn't a mistake. Dawn off Samar, the 25th of October, 1944. Johnston was screening 6 escort carriers, thin-skinned, slow, built to ferry planes, not fight battleships. Then the wrong silhouettes rose over the northern horizon. 4 battleships, 8 cruisers, a screen of destroyers. The heaviest surface force Japan had left. Who decides what one destroyer does when that line appears? October 27th, 1943. Commander Ernest E. Evans stood on the deck of his new ship and told the men exactly what kind of war they were about to have. This is going to be a fighting ship. I intend to go in harm's way, and anyone who doesn't want to go along had better get off right now. Nobody got off. The ship was USS Johnston, a Fletcher-class destroyer. 2,100 tons, 5-inch guns, 10 torpedo tubes, and a hull thin enough that a heavy shell could pass clean through it without slowing down. 327 men aboard. A destroyer's whole purpose is the screen. Ride the outer ring, and put yourself between the big ships and whatever comes for them. That was the job Evans had signed for. Now picture what came over the horizon off Samar on the morning of October 25th, 1944. 4 battleships and 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and 11 destroyers. The lead battleship was Yamato, the heaviest battleship ever built, firing armor-piercing shells that weighed nearly 3,200 pounds. This was the Japanese center force, commanded by Admiral Kurita. Taffy 3's task was to shield the escort carriers covering the Leyte landings. Slow, soft ships packed with aircraft and men. The arithmetic was not close. So, Evans had 1 destroyer and 1 sentence he had said out loud a year before. That sentence was about to be tested against odds no sane officer would accept. He did not intend to wait to be asked. The first salvo came from Johnston, and it came early. Evans did not wait for orders from anyone above him. A heavy cruiser was closing on the escort carriers. He had a battery of 5-inch mounts, and to him that was enough math. The guns opened on the nearest cruiser at a range no destroyer captain expects to survive. Here is what makes this chapter worth telling. Evans was not shooting to sink that cruiser. He knew he couldn't. Lieutenant Robert Hagen, his gunnery officer, remembered the order exactly. Commence firing on that cruiser, draw her fire on us, and away from Gambier Bay. Sit with that for a second. He was asking the Japanese to shoot at him, on purpose, so they would not shoot at the carrier behind him, and they obliged. Johnston put out fire so fast, so steadily, that Japanese spotters reportedly logged her as a cruiser, a ship 4 times her weight. A 2,000-ton destroyer, mistaken for a heavy combatant, because no one watching could believe that volume came from something so small. Then she stopped being alone. USS Herman came up hard on the engaged side, guns already working. USS Hull drove in with her. 2 more Fletcher-class destroyers, charging a battle line into the same fire Johnston had just invited onto herself. To the Japanese command, it looked like the opening of a real attack. Because it was. 3 small ships behaving like the vanguard of something much larger. But Evans could read his own gunnery, and the verdict was plain. Shells were landing. They were not stopping that column. Steel against armor, at that range, buys you minutes and nothing more. So he turned the wheel toward the one weapon aboard that could actually break a cruiser, and pointed Johnston's bow at torpedo range. Evans put the helm over and drove Johnston out of the screen. Not back toward the carriers she was paid to protect, but straight at the lead column of Japanese cruisers. 1 Fletcher-class destroyer, 5,000 tons, turning to meet a surface force whose firepower dwarfed anything 1 destroyer could answer. Understand what closing to torpedo range actually required. A destroyer carries her torpedoes amidships. To use them, Evans had to bring Johnston inside 10,000 yards of cruisers, whose main batteries could tear her open at twice that range. There is no clever way to do this. You point the bow at the enemy, and you hold the course while they range you in. Every second on that heading was a second Johnston spent being shot at and unable to shoot back. That was the trade Evans accepted the moment he turned. She was the first. Before the destroyer Heerman came up, before Howell swung in behind her, Johnston was the lead ship of Taffy 3 to make the charge, out ahead of the screen, alone, closing the range by hand, while shells walked toward her. And she held it. Evans drove in until the lead cruiser column filled the sights, and then he loosed the full spread. 10 torpedoes, every one the ship carried, fired into the leading Japanese line in a single salvo. Minutes later, the heavy cruiser Kumano fell out of the column with her bow blown off, credited to Johnston's torpedoes. This is the part I want stated plainly. It was not panic. It was not a destroyer captain flinching into the nearest target. Evans had told his crew at commissioning that he intended to take the ship into harm's way, and at Samar he did exactly that, deliberately, against a force that should have ended the argument with one volley. The torpedoes ran. The spread reached the column. And the price for getting it there came due at once, because the same guns Johnston had been closing against now had her ranged, dead in their sights, and they did not miss. A heavy caliber shell tore into Johnston below the bridge, and the steering died. The wheel turned nothing. A destroyer that cannot steer in the middle of a gunfight is no longer a warship. It is a target that still has teeth. Evans had already been hit. Shell fragments had torn 2 fingers from his left hand and opened his chest. He would not leave. With the wheel useless, he moved aft to the Fantail, down to the men hauling the rudder over by hand, and he steered her from there, shouting coarse orders to them over the noise of his own guns. She fought like that for close to 3 hours, crippled, burning, steered by voice from the stern. Johnston kept her guns firing and kept drawing fire onto herself. When the order to abandon ship finally came, she had taken far more than a destroyer is built to take, and she went down off Samar that morning. Of the 327 men aboard, 141 came home. Evans was not one of them. He was last seen abandoning ship with his crew, and was never accounted for. At her commissioning, he had told them he meant to take her into harm's way. He did exactly that, to the end. And that sacrifice bought the rest of Taffy 3 something, which is where we go next. Verdict. Johnston's charge bought Taffy 3 time minutes that kept the escort carriers alive while the fight hung in the balance. Not the whole battle, the minutes. Kurita had the heaviest surface force the Imperial Navy had left that morning. Then he turned north and broke off, and historians still argue why. The relentless air and destroyer attacks, his mounting cruiser losses, a false report of carriers to the north. No single ship turned him, but the escort carriers he should have run down were still floating when he quit. And ships like Johnston are the reason he never got a clean shot. The escort arm held at Samar, the destroyers and the thin-skinned carriers everyone had written off as second-rate. Johnston led that stand. First, of Taffy 3 to charge, out of the screen before anyone signaled her to go. Evans did not survive the morning. His Medal of Honor was posthumous, the first ever awarded to a Native American sailor in the United States Navy. His ship stayed lost for 75 years, then turned up 4 miles down, at the time, the deepest shipwreck ever found. The record stands on its own. Thank you for watching. If this one earned your time, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who argues about Samar. I'll see you next time on Ask Sable.